Yes, in fact, some people, in fact, the Buddhists will claim that. And I don't blame them. Because what happens is this, again, it's very difficult to really say that this was presented to fight Buddhism. But Buddhism, in its original nature, or in its originality, was a beautiful tradition, vast and magnanimous. At the same time, what happens is that everything that you can present, if you are not vigilant, if society is not vigilant, that particular feature can become degenerate. So Buddhism was pure and pristine, and there was a golden period of India. Just a few hundred years after Buddha, that was the best time. We had the universities, we had art, music, learning, tremendous discipline, and nobody could speak, nobody would spoke a lie. That was the kind of nature we had. This is the golden period of India, Hinduism. I would say Buddhism. So that was the period. But then after 500 years, this idea started to get degenerate. This happens with everything. Mm-hmm. Everything keeps changing. All great civilizations, then there's ups and downs. So Buddhism had a bit of a down. And the down was that it turned into because there was no focus on God. Buddha doesn't invoke a God. He said, I can talk about spirituality without invoking a God. That is why there's no God in Buddhism. There's no God in, by the way, no creator God in Jainism too. So because of that, it slowly degenerated and turned into a crass, materialistic philosophy, crass materialism. Mm-hmm. And the idea is this came about by the Charvaks, who said, look, my friend, this whole idea of moksha and individual soul is all nonsense. Aim of life is to get as much pleasure out of it as possible. Pleasure principle, hedonism in ancient Greek also, hedonism, just enjoy. Pleasure is the principle behind which, in fact, one of the gurus we had also with 100 also, so focusing on the same, just have fun, eat, drink, be merry and copulate, no problem. There's nothing else. It's all this make-believe, this idea of Atman and Brahman and God and all this. So Buddhism turned into strongly a very crass materialistic ideology that infected India about 1500 years back. It's true story. If you look at it, it will frighten you. There was no ethics, no morality, it was all crashing fast. At that time, we had this young person, this India produces these giants when the time is there, when there's a real need. And this young boy in South India, Kerala, this Adi Shankara came about. A young boy, who only lived to the age of 32. He has such sharp intellect, tremendously sharp intellect. He could, in a way, displace Buddhism, not because he had a problem with Buddhism, but simply because Buddhism had become crass and degenerate. It was necessary to chop it down. When I say chop it down, the sincere Buddhists are not chopped down, but this philosophy that had degenerated, he needed to cut it out, prune it. That's what he did. Now, the ideas that he came up with, you may think some people say Adi Shankara is a Prachanna Buddha, means he's a hidden Buddha. So, but in a way, you can do this kind of gymnastics, saying actually, he borrowed ideas from Buddhism and etc. But I would say not true, because this idea of Advaita Vedanta, you see, even in the Vashita Maharama, is visible in Advaita Vedanta. In the ancient scripture. So it's not something that came after Buddha. It's far earlier than Buddha. So idea of Advaita Vedanta was already there, but it was kind of lying dormant. And the only way Adi Shankara could remove this kind of, highly materialistic ideology India had subscribed to was to chop it down using Advaita Vedanta. Not Vedanta with the gods and goddesses, but Advaita Vedanta. So he moved from personality-oriented Hinduism to principle-oriented Hinduism to save Hinduism. Otherwise he would have died. So that is what he promoted, idea of Advaita Vedanta. Our nature is essentially Atman, spirit, etc. and so on. This is Advaita Vedanta. And because it is so philosophically, so sharp, even today, you can't challenge Advaita Vedanta. And in fact, modern physics is in a way agreeing with Advaita Vedanta, with this idea of quantum. So Advaita Vedanta was central. So he pulled it out, it was lying dormant. Even the Bhagavad Gita was lying dormant in India. Again, Adi Shankara said, give three particular, foundation to revive Hinduism. The three foundations, they are called Prasthana Traya. The three foundation stone he kind of focused on was the idea of Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and the Brahma Sutra. He said, let us focus, and the Brahma Sutras talk of Advaita Vedanta, etc. And of course, this idea of Upanishads talk of Advaita Vedanta. So he said, let's bring these two as a foundation stone to revive Hinduism. That's what he did. So we can't say it's borrowed from Buddha, but its ideas, when you look at the deeper ideas that Buddhism comes with, it's not much different from what Advaita Vedanta is teaching. I'll give you the example. You see, Buddhism says, an Atman, there's no Atman, there's no spirit. What he was attacking was the idea that one individual going from one life to another life. He was attacking that, saying there's no individual at all. It's just a flux, it's an appearance. That's what Buddha is teaching. And Advaita Vedanta is telling the same thing. He said that the ego that seems to go from one life is not a reality. That's Advaita Vedanta. The spirit is a reality. The ego that goes from one life to another life has no reality. It's an appearance. So it's no different from the deeper vision of Buddhism. But of course, when there are two theologians trying to fight with each other from Advaita Vedanta and Buddhism, they keep fighting. In the time of Adi Shankara, he managed to defeat all the Buddhist philosophies and score high marks by focusing on the idea of Advaita Vedanta. And that is how Hinduism was revived.
Free e-learning course in Hinduism. To register, please visit www.hindu-academy.com.
Talks on Hinduism. Sponsored by People Care. Encouraging caring for the elderly in their own homes. For more information, please visit peoplecare.com.